With the release of Starfield just a few months away, we're now being bombarded with loads of brand new information around the game from both Starfield Showcase from the last month and also the recent Todd Howard interviews, where he's answered a bunch of the fans' most important and pressing questions. Some fans have expressed many concerns around the aspects of the game, but on the whole it seems like Starfield really is going to be the real deal. So let's go ahead and get stuck in as to why that is the case. Now, straight off the bat, apparently only 10% of planets in the game are going to contain life. So that's about 100 planets, and understandably some fans expressed some concerns around this, but I'm here to tell you why that is in fact a good thing. In fact, I'd probably go as far as saying it was kind of expected. Since the beginning, Bethesda has followed a vague attempt at realism when it comes to Starfield, so it does make sense that 90% of planets won't have life on them. I'm talking about random, weird-looking creatures like you're going to find on almost every planet in a game like No Man's Sky. And spoiler alert, in the real world we've never found traces of life outside of Earth, so having 100 out of 1,000 planets containing life seems very reasonable to me. And to add to this, it's not to say that these planets without life can't be interesting. I mean, having no life could mean just no native life to that particular planet. We could see bandit mining colonies, constellation outposts, abandoned settlements with side quests and mysteries to solve, and more. We know that Starfield has an in-depth outpost building feature, and more on that in just a few minutes, so we could easily set up shop on these planets and have all of its resources to ourselves. But what we do know is that all the handcrafted content in Starfield is absolutely massive. We're going to see the biggest cities Bethesda has ever built in a game and the largest overall script, so there's certainly no shortage of in-game content, meaning the fact that only 10% of the planets not having native life seems like a real non-issue to me. In one of his recent interviews, Todd Howard mentioned there was no way they could handcraft an entire planet and all of its encounters, which is kind of obvious, but instead he goes on to say that there'll be individual locations, some of which are placed specifically, so the ones which include your major cities and outposts, that these have quests revolving around them, and of course some of which are generated or placed nearby where you're landing depending on the planet. Some of the planets won't be bustling cities, abandoned outposts and other stuff like that, so you can feel like you're only the person there who's ever visited it. A lot of Starfield is going to be based around exploration, of course, and if every planet was packed full of stuff, you'd probably only ever visit one or two planets and hardly see any of them, so I think this is a good thing. There are of course Goldilocks systems, as Todd calls them, whereby you'll find much more going on, but it does pay to explore the less Goldilocks systems as well, because you get more valuable resources. So moving on, let's talk about some companions. So in his interview, Todd confirms that there were going to be 4 main Constellation companions that support personal full-length storylines and romance, and he even revealed our actions and choices can impact a relationship with different characters. Apparently we can make them incredibly mad at us, but there are a few unknowns, as Todd does stop short of saying whether or not they can leave us. Spoiler alerts I guess, but it does seem that we can leave them if we don't like them. So apparently we can abandon them on new ships, outposts and various other locations throughout the Starfield universe. There are going to be more than just these 4 companion characters in the game, but they're going to be the only ones that will support romance options, which tie in well with the RPG side of the game. And sticking with gameplay details, it's being confirmed that there are going to be no land-based vehicles for us to explore on. At least at launch anyway. With the massive mods community support with this game, more on that in just a few minutes, there is also a likelihood that we're going to be getting them there. However, in the meantime, we can use our boost packs, which you can see in the deep dive video, to explore these planets. And it has also been confirmed that they're going to be a number of low gravity planets, so getting around on those won't actually be too difficult at all. And when it comes to planet diversity, it seems like Starfield has this nailed on. Todd confirms there can be planets with one type of biome, which is what myself and every other No Man's Sky players will be used to, and there will also be planets with a whole bunch of different biomes going on, which is fantastic news if you ask me, because it gives you motivation to explore the entire planet and not just where you happen to be landing. Surveying planets seems like it's going to be a large part of the game, and the information is worth a lot of credit, so it gives us an incentive to go off and explore these celestial bodies for all the flora, fauna and resources that it contains within it. Right, let's talk about customization and all that sort of stuff. So, with Starfield, character customization is going to be playing a huge part of the game. You're not going to be playing as some generic stock protagonist like a lot of other games, but instead you'll be able to build your own character from the ground up. We're talking about appearance, skill set, attitude traits and a lot more. So Bethesda have absolutely nailed character customization in the past, so knowing they've extended it to Starfield and made it more in depth should be something definitely they should shout about. You can even change the background of your character, and by that I mean you can make them a gangster, a diplomat and absolutely everything in between. At first glance, it's clear that the skills you choose at the start of the game can significantly change how your character plays, so definitely worth spending some time tweaking these when you're starting out. And as I mentioned a second ago, you can also manage their traits, which will also seriously affect the way you play. For example, selecting Introvert will buff your character's endurance when exploring any planet alone, but it'll do the exact opposite of that when you're exploring with companions. So if you select that, you probably want to send those companions out on missions in ships you're not currently using. All in all though, the character customization is super in depth and I cannot wait to get stuck in. So, when the first Starfield reveal came out just under a year ago, we got a small glimpse of starship customization and I thought, alright, that looks pretty cool. But it wasn't until the more in-depth look we got just last month that I was absolutely blown away by it. You can literally build your starship to look however you want, be as big or as small as you want, add whatever upgrades you want. The possibilities really are endless. Some of the plethora of upgrades that are needed for you to be able to visit the distant systems, which I like, so it's not like No Man's Sky where even though it may take a damn long time, you can still visit any planet you want straight from the start. This hugely in-depth ship customization is certainly one of the main aspects of the game that I'm most looking forward to as well. And sticking with yet even more customization, yes, this game is packed with this sort of stuff. Let's talk about outposts. Again, the possibilities really are endless with outposts as well, assuming you've got the right amount of resources. Apparently, if you want to go crazy with outpost buildings, you are going to need to upskill your character, explore more and gather more resources, and that's a good thing I think. Creating an epic outpost should not be possible straight off the bat. I want to feel rewarded when I've built these epic outposts, knowing that it took me a good amount of effort to actually be able to build it. And one more thing Todd mentioned in the interview is that you're able to link outposts on different planets together and shuttle resources between the 2, 3 or however many of them. Now that's not something I expected to hear, but it's super exciting nonetheless. I really can't wait to get stuck in now. So let's move on and talk about the technical side of things. It has been reported that Starfield is going to be locked to 30 frames per second on both Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S. Now this has raised some concerns amongst fans, like myself, who will be playing on consoles because the recent launch of Redfall wasn't exactly a major success and it was also locked to 30 frames per second. However, Starfield is on a much larger scale, so for a game as demanding as it is, and as long as it performs at a steady frame rate, I think we'll be able to forgive 30 FPS. Assuming the experience is consistent of course. The game will also run on 4K on the Series X and 1440p on the Series S, which is standard for these platforms. However, on PC it will of course also run at 4K, but the frame rate is going to be higher at 60 frames per second, sometimes more depending on how much of a beast your current PC is. And looking at the PC specs required to run Starfield to its full potential, you are going to need a powerful PC. But this game will look utterly fantastic on PC and both consoles if you ask me. And for all you modders out there, there is great news as Todd Howard has come out and said in his interview that Starfield is going to basically be a modder's paradise. He mentions that modding is part of a developer's DNA and he fully expects Starfield to serve as a culmination of 2 decades worth of community content support. And also, the studio doesn't intend to stop with releasing official modding tools, but continuously facilitate fan-created content to such a large degree, the modders can approach it as not just a hobby but a career instead. So, between those quotes from the interviews from Todd and the fact that over half of the top 10 largest modder communities on both Nexus Mods and ModsDB revolve around Bethesda games, there is little doubt in my mind that Starfield is going to be enjoying an influx of unofficial content created right from the get-go. Some veteran Bethesda modders have already confirmed plans to release a community patch that are going to address any major bugs in the initial version of the game. And speaking of bugs, and now this may be a very bold statement, but Matt Booty, who's head of none other than Microsoft Studios, has said that Starfield will have the fewest bugs of any Bethesda game ever. Now hopefully that statement doesn't come back to bite him on the arse, but it seems like the game's very premise lends itself to being, as Todd Howard says, a modder's paradise, and I certainly cannot wait to get stuck in when the game is released in just a couple of months. And that's a wrap folks. Let me know what your thoughts around Starfield are in the comment section below, and if you're still here, it would be totally awesome if you could support my channel by leaving a like and hitting the subscribe buttons, with notifications turned on so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. You can now also become a channel member where you get exclusive membership only content and some unique emojis and badges when leaving a comment. What's not to love about that, right? So as always, thank you for watching the video and I'll catch you in the next one.